Today, we're heading out to the very edge of biology. We're going to look at some of the rarest conditions known to medicine, conditions that happen when our most fundamental safeguards just fail. It's a journey that challenges pretty much everything we think we know about a normal human life. You know, we all kind of assume our bodies follow a fixed set of rules, but what if that's not really how it works? What if biology is more like a game of probabilities? See, most of the time, everything lines up perfectly. This explainer, though, is about those incredibly rare moments when it doesn't, when the probabilities break down and create a human experience that is profoundly different from our own.
So, let's start with this idea of life anomalies. We're not just talking about a rare disease here, no. We're talking about conditions that shake the very foundations of what it means to be human. The stuff we all assume is a given, like knowing you exist or being able to feel pain.
Now, these anomalies might kick off from a single gene, a tiny blip in development, or a specific injury to the brain. But honestly, where they come from isn't the most mind-blowing part. It's what they mean. They're telling us that the systems we depend on every single second, our sense of self, our ability to feel pain, our control over our own bodies, they're not guaranteed. They're not a given.
Think about it. Pain, identity, development, agency. These are the building blocks of our lives, and we just take them for granted. They feel so automatic, so fundamental. But as we're about to see, if you disrupt just one of these systems, the entire experience of being human can change in unbelievable ways. So let's start with maybe the biggest one of all, the self.
All right, let's dive into some anomalies that literally fracture our deepest sense of who we are and what we control. It gets right to this massive question: who or what is actually in charge inside our own minds? We all operate on this bedrock assumption, don't we? I mean, we feel alive, we know we exist, and that feeling is just there. It's stable. It feels like the most basic, unshakable truth we have. But what if it's not unshakable at all?
This is Cotard syndrome, and it is a truly staggering condition. And let's be absolutely clear, this is not a metaphor. This isn't just someone feeling depressed. It's a deep, unshakable belief. Patients are in genuine, profound distress. I mean, the medical literature has documented cases of people who say they can smell their own flesh decaying, people who ask their families to take them to the morgue because that's where they genuinely believe they belong.
So how on earth does a living, breathing brain arrive at that conclusion? Well, we don't know for sure, but one of the main ideas is that there's a disconnect. It's like the part of the brain that feels emotion gets unplugged from the part that recognizes you as you. Imagine looking in a mirror and intellectually knowing that's your face, but feeling absolutely nothing, zero emotional connection, no spark of "that's me." The brain, being a logic machine, tries to solve this puzzle and comes up with the only conclusion that fits the data: I must be dead. It's a shocking idea that our feeling of being alive is something our brain has to actively build every single moment. Now for a totally different kind of fracture. This is alien hand syndrome. This is where the basic link between your thoughts and your actions just snaps. And we're not talking about a random muscle twitch. The alien hand does complex, purposeful things, like unbuttoning the shirt you literally just buttoned or grabbing things you don't want to grab. It truly acts like it has a mind of its own. The crucial piece that's missing here is what's called agency, that feeling that you're in the driver's seat of your own body. The person knows intellectually that the hand is theirs, they can see it's attached to their arm, but they experience what it does as if someone else is controlling it. This often happens when the connection between the two halves of the brain gets damaged. It's almost like the two hemispheres start fighting for control, and it reveals this incredible fact. The part of you that wills an action and the part of you that does the action are two separate things that can come apart. Okay, next up, we're going to look at an anomaly that takes away one of our most critical survival tools. And it makes you wonder, what would life actually be like if your body's most basic alarm system just went silent? Let's be honest, we all see pain this way. It's the enemy. It's a glitch in the system, something to be stamped out with medication, a totally negative thing. But that whole way of thinking completely misses the point of why we feel pain in the first place. This is a condition called Congenital Insensitivity to Pain, or CIPA. It's a genetic disorder, and it all comes down to a mutation in one specific gene. That gene is supposed to build the nerve fibers that carry pain and temperature signals. When it doesn't work, those wires just never get installed. So a person with CIPA can feel pressure. They know you're touching them, but the crucial alarms for "this is too hot" or "this is sharp," they're completely silent. You might think, wow, no pain? That's a superpower. But this is exactly why it's the opposite. It's a constant, invisible danger. Doctors have reported children with CIPA suffering from repeated bone fractures, really bad burns, and infections that go completely unnoticed because the child feels nothing. Their parents and caregivers have to become their external warning system, constantly checking for injuries the body can't report. It turns the entire world into an invisible minefield. So in the end, CIPA teaches us one of the most powerful lessons in all of medicine. Pain is not a bug in our biological software. It is a critical feature. It's information. It's survival data that's essential for us to learn and, well, survive. Without it, every single thing we touch becomes a potential threat.
All right, for our last section, let's go all the way back to the very beginning of life, to see just how fragile the whole developmental process is. What happens when the biological blueprint for a human being gets disrupted?
It's kind of amazing when you stop and think about it, right? We all start as a single cell, and we just assume that this robust, reliable process is going to churn out a standard human body. We take it for granted. But that process is actually this incredibly precise cascade of signals. And if just one of those signals goes wrong, the whole plan can change. Sirenomelia is one of the most extreme examples of that kind of disruption. Now, it's really important to get this right. This is not a case of two fully formed legs fusing together. The divergence happens way, way earlier in development. And because it's so early, it also affects the development of crucial internal organs, which is why, sadly, survival is extremely rare. And what's really wild is that even with all our modern science, researchers still aren't 100% certain what causes it. One idea, called vascular steal, suggests that blood flow gets diverted away, basically starving the lower part of the embryo of what it needs to develop. Another theory is that there's a problem with the foundational building blocks in that region right from the get-go. The fact that it's still debated just shows you how much of early human development is still a scientific frontier.
300. That's about how many cases have ever been documented in medical literature, worldwide, in all of history. That incredibly small number tells you everything you need to know about the insane level of precision that's required in the first few weeks of life. A time when countless signals have to fire perfectly, long before most people even know a pregnancy has begun.
So we've looked at the self, at pain, at how our bodies are built. Let's zoom out. What does this all tell us? Well, these conditions aren't just medical oddities. They're more like profound windows that give us a glimpse into just how conditional life really is. And that really gets to the heart of it all, doesn't it? The stability we feel in our bodies and our minds, our very sense of self, none of it is promised. It's just the most probable outcome. Biology isn't following a set of strict rules. It's playing the odds. And these extraordinary cases are what happens when it hits a statistical long shot.
You know, for most of us, our biology works so reliably that its incredible complexity is basically invisible. It's like we're driving a car and never think about the thousands of parts firing in perfect sequence under the hood. Studying these outliers, it's like lifting that hood. It forces you to see the jaw-droppingly intricate machine that's been running in the background all along.
And that really leaves us with one final big question to chew on. When you realize that the very foundations of your experience, your identity, your sense of control, your ability to feel pain, all hinge on these delicate, microscopic processes working just right, well, it changes how you see things. It makes you wonder when a single gene or a single signal can change absolutely everything. Just how fragile is a normal life?